All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Strike Force. I know we just streamed an hour earlier, but this one is not a news stream, but it is a discussion stream. We are having discussion. Okay, shut up, browser. I forgot to mute my own browser again. Bad habit. But anyway.
Drinking game. Every time DarkCon fails to mute his own browser, we all take a shot.
I'm sorry. I'm not legal of age.
I'm not either, but cirrhosis of the liver, here we come.
But yes, anyway. So this is a bit of a topic that has been getting kind of heated, I guess, on Twitter with some people within our circles. So I thought, hey, why not have this be the very next discussions, very next Strife Force discussions, if I can English. The last one was on political icons, and the one before that was on political ideologies, which is about a year back. S-Man knows that one.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it was over a year ago. But anyway.
But yeah.
Yes. So yeah, we're going to be talking about the Electoral College. This is not really a debate stream, so there is not any official rules that I have set up, although I will try to keep it moderated just to keep everybody decent. And it's just an open discussion panel period to all the bigger group chats that I have sent the link to. So anyway, enough of my babbling. I will let these two introduce themselves. Of course, y'all probably know S-Man, but anyway, let you two take it.
Okay.
All right.
S-Man.
To start off with the discussion on the Electoral College. All right. So this has been an interesting topic because I didn't know about the Electoral College until a little after our most recent presidential election.
Should I introduce myself?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was kind of...
Let's
just...
think about that.
Okay, never mind. Let's... we'll get into like the actual discussion after we let Rich. It is all right that we call you Rich, right?
It's cool, man. I'm not rich, but I'm rich. I'm joking with you. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Richard Bronson, host of the Right Side of History YouTube channel. That's it. There you go. Conclude.
All right.
So everybody, like, introduce your own position on the Electoral College and why you hold that position.
Okay.
All right.
I'll let you two go first, and then I guess I'll go afterwards.
All right.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first on this, Rich?
I'll go first if you want me to, if that's allowed.
Sure. I mean, this isn't my channel anyway.
I don't really have a problem with the Electoral College system at all whatsoever. It's really, in my personal opinion, a good stagnant. What's the word? What I'm looking for? It's a really good. It's not accustomed to change, which is really good because it's been around for over almost 200 years now. So I'm glad because of that. And also, not only that, but I do believe the system has its things that it needs to work out, obviously. But in my personal opinion, I think it is a very strong system. I don't think it needs to be abolished whatsoever. I think the reason why it was never supposed to be abolished was because Federalist Papers number 68, James Madison exclusively said the reason why we don't do the type of popular type of votes that we do in exchange because of mob rule and things like that. So we don't do that specific thing. It's the reason why we don't have that. I think the Electoral College system, I think Alexander Hamilton, who was kind of a dick, but not kind of a dick when he said it, was basically that some of the people in the Electoral College, the majority of people in the Electoral College system know more than the average American, which, the people that are elected in the Electoral College system are people elected by Republicans and Democrats and people of their own party that can be a strong base for their own party. But I would say that probably most likely is true since, like, literally a good 2 days ago when I was asked who my state representative was, I literally did not know who it was. I swear to God to me. So I would feel that personally the average American doesn't even care about politics. And this event of Trump becoming president clearly showed people don't know about politics. So I would go on that insinuation and say that's most likely probably true. And also with that being said, just like the Constitution, that's only been amended I don't know how many times the Constitution has been amended over its 200 years, but it's been very few. And just like the Electoral College system, only 4 times ever did a person win with the Electoral College and not the popular vote in synchronicity, which was 1888, 2016, 2000, and then I forgot the other one. But it was only 4 times in history. So its track record is pretty well throughout history. So I'll say Electoral College. I'm for it. Am I for a reform in the Electoral College system? Depends on what reform you're talking about. And do I? But am I pro Electoral College? Yeah, I'm pretty much pro Electoral College.
Is that it?
Yeah.
All right. So, like I was saying before, I realized to allow before
All right. Hello, Lapis.
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Hi.
So before Rich started, as I was saying, so I was not very concerned with electoral politics until like 2017, 18, and 19. So when I first heard that the United States indirectly elects its president, I wasn't real sure what to make of it. I just thought that, well, that's the way it is. I didn't really have a lot of concern with it. So I thought, well, I guess I ought to look into it. I mean, this is literally how we elect the most powerful person on the planet. So, like you said, yes, the Electoral College and the popular vote usually, all but 5 elections, stay the exact same. Well, technically 4, but that's just an anomaly. So 1876, 1888, 2000, and 2016 are the only times the Electoral College and popular vote didn't see the same way. Now, the reason I oppose the Electoral College is because we see a lot of the time people are talking about how if we have a direct popular vote, which I'm not even calling for first past the post direct popular vote, but when I see people say tyranny of the majority, I don't see that as possible, like realistically possible. I don't think mob rule is realistic, realistically possible for the United States. So, we see that, people look at the last election, the popular vote was actually really close. 2.1% of the country separated the two candidates who ran for president. We see that, people usually say that the big cities can determine an election, and how that's supposedly bad. Yet it's okay for swing states to determine an election. And let's also keep in mind that it would take, who knows how many of the biggest cities in the country for supposed mob rule to allow a president to be elected. And like you could win 39 states, and you could probably win a good landslide, like 78, 79% of the popular vote. You could still come out the loser in that election. And, you could be the guy who gets bodied by a 58-point margin, and you're still president-elect come January 20th because of this electoral system. We also see that with, when coming back to what you said regarding, presidential electors knowing more than the average citizen. Well, I mean, I don't see that as entirely true. I mean, there are people who are interested in politics, and yes, there are people who don't know much about politics, but they still have that. They still vote instead. But we've seen how mob rule has never happened in the country, and I'm not really interested in what what the founding fathers have said on every single issue, because yeah, I like the founding fathers, but I think everyone here can admit that it is they've not always had the greatest takes. They are flawed, and I'm not going to put anyone really on a pedestal because, yeah, they have their flaws, and it's an appeal to authority to always just rely on what the founding fathers said. People do have to, they have to think about, is this right? And if it's right and it doesn't conform with what the founding fathers said, then, well, too bad for the founding fathers. And I think the United States should definitely repeal the Electoral College and institute ranked voting. I mean, the buy-seller amendment is the closest we've ever come to getting rid of the Electoral College, and I still have my problems with the buy-seller amendment. But in short, I'm for ranked voting, not a first past the post popular vote system. I think that is just as bad as the Electoral College is.
Right.
That's what I.
All right, you were done. All right,
yeah.
So I'll give Lapis a chance to speak. Introduce yourself and introduce your position, and then explain why you hold the position that you do on Electoral College. Although, first assumptions, I am going to think that you are like anti-Electoral College, but you go, Lapis.
Yes. Hi, my name's Lapis. I am a libertarian socialist, and I see the Electoral College as a anti-democratic maneuver. I don't think it is a good electoral system. I think it should be replaced by either proportional representation or some other brand of electoral system, like ranked choice voting. Just the Electoral College is just one of the worst electoral systems I've ever seen. You know, it's archaic. The number of candidates each state gets to the number of electors each state gets is rather arbitrary and not representative of the amount of people there. I say it's anti-democratic because it doesn't actually, you know, the electors, you know, are not necessarily evenly dispersed by the amount of people who voted. Like the Libertarian Party got what 2.1% of the vote last election, but it didn't get any of the electors because the way that the vote was distributed. That doesn't seem right to me. That millions of people can have one opinion in a country, and yet their voice counts for nothing.
All right. So that was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So to give my brief history on it, okay, first of all, I want to say that I only want this discussion really to go on for about 2 hours. So we'll probably end it about 8:05 or 8:10 Central Standard Time. But anyway, so my position on the Electoral College, I guess I was slightly for it before 2016. I did not really care that much for it. It kind of went over my head at first. But then when 2016 came around, I was upset by the nomination that happened in the Republican primaries, that being Donald Trump, of course. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to hide the chat for myself. And by the way, actually, Common Sense Guy, I sent the link on the group chat, the Twitter group chat. You can find it there. But anyway, as I was saying, as soon as 2016 came around, I was upset by who was nominated for the Republican candidacy of President of the United States. So I thought to myself, I want one of these libertarians actually to win because I don't believe Trump to be a true conservative, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought the only way that a libertarian could really, truly win is if the Electoral College did not exist. But as further on down the road, the 2016 presidential election unfolded, I understood it a little bit more. And there's actually one little caveat that if nobody gets 270 or just in general, not a majority of the Electoral College votes, that the decision making of who will become president kind of falls on the House of Representatives. They will essentially vote for the president, and then the Senate will vote on who becomes vice president.
Yes.
And so that kind of helped me be, I guess, and nudged me a little bit more and more for Electoral College. And honestly, it's like one of those small issues to me, Electoral Colleges. It isn't like a make or break issue on like the totality of my political view, but I would say that I am slightly for it. Now, as for why I am for it, people keep on saying that it's undemocratic, and I say that's that's kind of the
point.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's kind of the point of it, is that it's meant to subvert direct majoritarian, just straight democracy, and have more of a Republican sort of a system of government here in the United States, of where that the majority cannot just utterly romp over the decision making of the minority and their rights, et cetera, et cetera. And to explain tyranny of the majority, I believe that Loudmouth Reviews put it correctly, that tyranny of the majority is two wolves and a sheep getting together and deciding what they're going to have for dinner. But for a more realistic example of how it is like, say, for example, like the majority polling, so from what I generally hear from leftists who typically like to be generally the ones that are against Electoral College, they keep on citing as to how banning assault weapons and pushing for a single-payer healthcare system in the United States is the most popular decision. Or I could probably try to think of other examples, but that would be one example. Like, not all the policy decision-making goes just straight to the majority. Like, they just decide who the legislators are going to be in the House of Representatives, and that's pretty much the end of that subject. Of course, we have a constitution as well. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling as well.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right. All right.
But the Electoral College is supposed to be a representation of that on the presidential election side of things. and not representative of people. Okay. And I will say that I've heard this experiment mentioned once before, that about 30% of the populace can win against 70% of the populace in a given presidential election. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. It's not like the minority is always going to just stomp the majority all the time. I mean, the majority opinion has to be like strategically placed. They have to not be so bunched up in all the bigger cities. I mean, it gives like the possibility for whether or not the minority opinion or the majority opinion wins in a presidential election, depending on where the people within a given opinion lives. And I yield the floor to Common Sense Guy, since he just joined.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to go on to not a little bit of a tangent, but just a little bit of a point. Some people would say that the UK system is a good system, and some people would say that the UK system is a first past the post system. It's not. It's actually very, very similar to the Electoral College, where instead of exactly, but we actually have, instead of states, we have what we call counties, where we would actually have, instead of electoral points, we would actually have what we call seats. So each county would be able to have an actual election that's run as a general election, would be classified as them winning a majority in a seat. Now, when it gets to a certain number, I believe it's 257 or 250 in general. I can't remember the actual proper number. But when it gets to a specific number, that's when the government then has a majority. Again, very, very similar to the Electoral College. Now, that doesn't mean that I think that they're exactly the same. I'm just trying to draw a comparison for people that are not going to be prejudiced, so to speak, towards the actual point of an Electoral College. Because the thing is with an Electoral College is people are focusing on who's won with it. As S-Man's already said before, it's only 3 times in US history where the Electoral College has forced a winner rather than it being a popular vote. That to me says that it is still a very, very good system and is still a fair system. Now, if you have, so for instance, somewhere like Texas, which I believe is about 38 million people, is it? Around about 30-something million people. Around about 30-something million people.
Could search this up very quickly for a fact check, but go on.
I think it's more like 18 to 28 million.
Either way, they get 38 electoral college votes. Yes.
Yeah.
Population 28.3 million. So okay, it's not 38. Yeah. It's
definitely not 38. Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, it's around about 28 million, as you quite rightly said. Well, if you have somewhere like Wyoming competing with Texas, obviously a vast difference in size to even begin with, but that's 28 million people versus, I think it's around 500,000, 580,000. Less than a million. Less than a million people. I'll do it that way rather than trying to fudge numbers. So how would that ever work as any sort of, I'm not trying to say it's a form of tyranny. I'm not trying to say it's a mob of rule or anything. But the way that the system is already designed is so that they have more of a chance of being equal. Now, they're not going to be equal, but they have more of a chance of being equal when it comes to an election. And I think the system that's already in place is the best one that you already have.
I would agree with that, and I would also like to bring up something as well. Towards the comment I was hearing about later on about the mob rule type of thing. I think the reason why the Founding Fathers were concerned about the mob rule type of specific situation was because of the hysteria that can possibly happen. Many times in this country, there's been a lot of hysteria. There's hysteria right now, actually. One most notable point I can remember is the Red Scare McCarthyism at the time, where basically you could tell someone that they were a communist and all of a sudden you get blacklisted. And you wouldn't be able to go into any acting gig, or you wouldn't be able to do anything because someone calls you a communist. And with that being said, that type of hysteria, that type of national type of hysteria, is the type of hysteria I think the Founding Fathers are speaking up to. Where basically, if I was running against you and you were basically talked to maybe a Russian, you probably talked to a Russian, but you're not communist. You're a full nationalistic guy. You're cool. You're a capitalist. You're a cool guy. You live in America. But the thing comes up and you're like, no, you're a communist. And everyone's like, what? You're a communist? What? You're a communist? You're like, no, I'm not a communist. And then everyone starts saying you're a communist. that type of hysteria, that type of mob hysteria that the majority of people were doing at that time in this country could promote that type of mob rule that I'm talking about. Not only that, but the same type of similar mob rule even to today. Even though Trump's approval ratings are in the 35% or 34% percentage range, even though Reagan was close to that and won 49 states after that whole entire incident. But with that being said, the majority of Americans seem to not have a good approval of Donald Trump at the same time, which is basically a mob would be a mob rule. But the thing about it is that even at the end, well, not mob rule, but basically the many reasons behind that are evident as well, between us having to fact check journalists 24/7, the media lying and doing specific things that conjure up this whole entire type of hysteria, as they bring up, to conclude this whole entire type of mob rule disapproval rating of this man. But even at the end of the day, you have I would agree that there's many things for the electoral college system that are good, and there are so many things that are bad. Like, for example, I think it maintains the division of powers. I think it maintains the differences between the three different branches of government. I think it's pretty accurate. I mean, like I said before, it's only 4 times this whole entire in its whole entire years of being around. 4 times has it ever not been in synchronicity. And I think it protects the interests of the minority. I think I was watching a video one time on the electoral college where basically, if you were Ohio, which I live in here, you had 18 electoral college votes, and but you're supposed to have 20 because the population. If you divide the numbers of the population, you would get, if you divide with the maintained amount of
Hey, Rich.
math. Yeah.
I would like to give anti-EC a chance to speak as well.
Okay.
Okay.
By anti-EC, I mean both S-Man and Lapis, because we 3 have been going on for quite a while. I also do want to say that this is not an official debate, so it's not like, hey, you shut up and don't interject in the least bit. I mean,
I'm not saying that. I'm not advocating for that at all. I'm just stating specific things.
Okay. Well.
All right. Well, that's more of a. That's more toward that piece of advice is more towards S-Man and Lapis. Like if they say, "Hey, I have a question," just say question or whatever, or if I may interject or something like that.
I'll probably just post something in the chat. But so coming back to what you said regarding like when you mentioned mob rule and the founding fathers, and yeah, we can look at incidents throughout the country where there was deep division and where there were riots and things were crazy, like 1968, and even since then, the country still survived, even when a lot of deep division happened. And like I said earlier, I'm not for a direct first past the post popular vote elections for the United States. I don't think I'd said anything regarding the United Kingdom on that. If I did, then that was my mistake.
You didn't.
But oh, okay. Well, we can see that regarding Wyoming and coming back to what Common Sense Guy said regarding Wyoming and Texas as examples. Well, when we just look at the nation as a whole, when we compare how no vote should be more powerful than another, because just because I live in Utah, a state with 6 electoral votes, it shouldn't be more or less powerful than a vote coming from Rich. You said Ohio, right? You're from Ohio?
Correct.
Yeah, you got like
Baltimore, but Ohio.
Oh,
I live in Ohio.
Okay, well, Ohio has 18 electoral votes, so my vote shouldn't be twice as powerful or whatever as the or 3 times as powerful as Rich's vote. I think that regarding the issues at hand with the Electoral College is, it allows states to drown out voices based on who will win the electoral votes. So if you're a Republican in California, actually, let me give you a better example. If you're a Republican in the state of New York,
there you go. Okay.
You have no shot. You have no shot at winning a statewide election. The last time they did that was like 16 years ago.
Bro. It's over.
Or another example. If you live in Utah, where no statewide race has been won federally for decades or statewide for decades, the closest thing you're going to win is the primary. That's it. You know, when it comes to ranked voting, it's a fairly straightforward system. So imagine me, Dark Khan. Imagine everyone that's hanging out is on the ballot, right? And Common Sense Guy and Dark Khan, they get like a combined 80% of the vote, but they split it 40-40. Me and Rich get whatever percentages. I'm too lazy to do the math off the top of my head, but let's imagine Lapis is the least popular polling candidate because she's a socialist, right? So let's imagine. So we eliminate Lapis from the ballot. She's the least popular. Her votes are redistributed. Everyone who had voted, they rank who they want from most to least preferred. So in that case, we redistribute votes based on who is the second pick. So let's say it's Common Sense Guy for some reason. If that pushes Common Sense Guy to over 50% of the popular vote, he wins. If not, then whoever's the next least popular, and I'll just say it's me because that's my luck, I'm out. And then this will continue until either Dark Khan or Common Sense Guy gets a majority. And the reason I like ranked voting is I think...
I have a question.
Me too.
Like, if we were to apply ranked choice voting, could we it doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility that we could combine ranked choice voting with Electoral College.
I've heard Blue say this, which in that case, I think that would be to me, that would be, and I wouldn't oppose trying that if we're going to keep the Electoral College. One, you ban faithless electors. Two, it's none of this winner take all, first past the post nonsense. It would be ranked voting for the 50 states in the District of Columbia. I'm just for hang on. I am for the abolition of the Electoral College and replacing it with ranked voting. I don't like. I can tell you why I oppose ranked voting. The biggest example is Canada. That's my biggest example for why I oppose first past the post for just in terms of voting, and just in general, any elections you can find, like 14 or so presidential elections, the winner of the popular vote didn't get half. And when we think about ranked voting, we can get a candidate that a lot of people could say, you know what, this is one we might have some political disagreements with, but in the end of the day, I'd rather have that person in office than this other person.
Can I ask a question?
Okay, sure.
Obviously, with the American system in itself, you could say that it is a two-party system, if you want me to use that colloquial or
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
So how would ranked voting actually work in that sort of setting? Because, for instance, even if you were to include the libertarians in that aspect, it would still be a case of a three-tier system, which means the two most powerful would always get the most votes anyway. So how would a ranking system work in that instance?
Well, people can, unlike the Electoral College or first past the post with ranked voting, you have the ability to just say, what?
No.
Someone mute him. Sorry.
1 second.
I don't even think he's at the... Okay.
All right, continue on. Sorry about that. So, I'm also trying to work the ratios of I'm trying to work the ratios on the calculator on my phone and my computer of what it would be like for the Electoral College votes to population ratio between California, Texas, and Kansas. But anyway,
all right.
Go on.
So so basically, instead of having to worry about, I have to vote between the lesser of two evils or that stuff, which is really prevalent in first past the post and Electoral College with ranked voting, you could rank who you want the most, and in case they get eliminated, you could still rank others. And I think it's a degradation of the two-party system. They rely on the Electoral College. They rely on first past the post, and they'll blame people who are third party or independent, saying if you vote for that person, you spoiled it, and blah blah blah. Spoiler.
See that? I would absolutely have to agree with you.
Nobody can cry about spoiler anymore with ranked choice voting. And Dead Horse kind of mentions an interesting theory of having ranked choice voting for how we choose our of who we nominate for a certain party. But then than the general election. Well, at least I think that's the implication he's given off. He says, I think ranked voting makes sense for a primary vote, but not the full election. So that kind of gives me the implication that just do it the traditional way with the general election, but the primary vote, it is more ranked choice.
That's how they do it.
That's how it worked with in our leadership races in Canada.
I mean, if we had ranked choice, imagine this: like if either Rand Paul or Ted Cruz or even freaking Jeb Bush or someone else got nominated instead of Trump, like, yeah, or even Carly Fiorina, who was like at second place for the early parts of the primary.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and for the Democratic race,
there's only two
go
people
ahead
that
and
really were
Bernie Sanders. Well, I don't know. This is a pretty much theoretical projection on what people like consider to be their first, second, and third option regarding both the primaries. Because during the Republican primary, it was like the top three choices for a lot of people was Trump, Cruz, and Carson. And then also Rand Paul as well. I mean, I would like to think that a whole lot of Republicans found Rand Paul to be a comfortable second or third choice, but they just did not favor him that much because they thought, he doesn't really stand a chance.
Or maybe he was right on too many issues. I'm kidding. Anyway,
right on too many issues that he turns.
2020.
Rand Paul 2020. No.
Yeah, he was so right that he turned off everybody from him.
He made people to the left of him look like ANCOMs. Anyway, to get back to what was being said, so regarding that's how it's done in Maine actually. Like for the primaries, they will do ranked voting. However, because the Maine Supreme Court sucks and the former governor was a piece of shit, couldn't do it for gubernatorial races. You could do it for the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, which actually the ranked voting system unseated a Republican incumbent in the 2nd District of Maine. So, to me, if we're going to have the Electoral College, ban faithless electors. No more winner take all. I think that if you win a certain percentage of the popular vote, you should take a certain chunk of the electoral vote. So let's say it's me versus Lapis in the state of Maryland. They got 10 electoral votes, and Maryland is fairly democratic. But let's say it's a close one. So I win 50% of the popular vote. She gets like 30, and surprise candidate DarkCon gets 20%. So I'll get 5, she gets 3, and DarkCon gets 2. So, I think that would be better than winner take all, but I'd still prefer the abolition, as I see. It's highly unlikely to have you could have coalition tickets, you could have electoral fusion, which a lot of states have banned, unsurprisingly. People could try that, or could have endorsed people for a third party candidate they really, really like, to try and break up the two-party system under ranked voting. Like, a good example is Ross Perot. He had almost 20% of the popular vote. Third parties combined is 20%. Who knows if ranked voting would have been a thing, in all 50 states in D.C., imagine how that would have turned out. We could have elected either Bush Sr., Clinton, or Perot. But instead, because of winner take all, and the plurality, it gave the election to either the Democrat or Republican. What's that common sense guy?
Say, for instance, as you correctly said, by the way, I actually would endorse the idea of having a shared electoral vote system for each and every state. I think that would actually be beneficial and actually have a chance of breaking up the tyranny of a two-party system. But the question in itself for myself would be, if you have people that are running in general in some states or most states that would be trying to run for primaries and everything else of that, how would the actual ranked voting be able to work in every state if there's separate people running for separate states and different senators? Because obviously with the Electoral College, it's not just about voting for Trump or Hillary Clinton for the 2016 example. It's also about who you're voting for as a senator as well. So how would So how would the ranked voting work on that aspect, and how would that actually affect the actual running of the primary, so to speak?
All right, for primaries for like a senator and everything else, it would work pretty much the same way. You know, to win the nomination, get a majority, and I mean, some states kind of do something like ranked voting is known as instant runoff voting, so it'd be instant. In some states, if you don't win a majority of the popular vote in a primary, you face a runoff. So,
yeah, that's how
yeah,
the South Carolina's primary system works, and some
Utah too.
Yeah, some primary systems in states have open primaries where if you say you're registered as a Democrat, you can actually vote in the Republican primary, which I think is kind of dumb in my opinion.
I honestly think that I don't oppose open primaries. I think it could. I think that's probably a good. I think that's a good tactic for.
It helps bring a bit of new blood into the party discussion.
Yeah, and I think it could. Hopefully, in 2022, California Republicans flood. Well, actually, they have a jungle primary. I oppose wholeheartedly jungle primaries. Absolutely oppose. But anyway, so with primaries, in Utah, they did the same thing. To ensure that a majority of the votes were cast. So basically, it's just instantaneous. That's how it's done. So if you get a plurality of the vote, as long as you're ahead of everybody else and you can cross the 50% threshold, that's how you can survive the primary. If you're the least popular, you get eliminated. I mean, it is actually Ireland. They are a country. They do. It has to be Ireland. I looked at it. They elect people with ranked voting, first, second, third preference. It can go for several rounds. Now, there's several variants I've seen people talk about with ranked voting. The kind
I think
that's
prefer. France.
They had I think they just had a general runoff, not like an instant runoff. But I oppose having to go and wait a few weeks to go and vote again because that's going to decrease turnout, and I think that could sometimes, if it's close enough, it could affect the election itself.
I have a question, everybody.
Sure.
I mean, of course, I'm the host, so my rule trumps all. But I just want to get a majority opinion on this. Could you don't have any problem with dead horse coming on, do you?
No. Who's dead horse?
A very dead horse. He's in the chat right now.
You want to bring roadkill into the stream? DarkCon, that's gross. Now bring him on. But anyway, like, wow, DarkCon, you killed a horse with your car, and now you want to bring it onto the stream. Well, yeah.
You're beating a dead horse, man. You're beating a dead horse.
I know, I am.
Did it.
Yeah, at least we can all have
I
those.
wanted to address the point you made earlier about national hysteria. So, that was your point in favor of the Electoral College, that, the electors, supposedly more educated people would be kind of more likely to be immune from these national hysterias which plague the general populace. And so they could make more informed choices. Well, I'm not necessarily sure that that's true, that educated people are immune from like mass hysteria. Like the
I never said they were.
Trials. It wasn't just, dumb people, the judges fell into it too. It subsumed the whole town. And that's the thing with hysteria. It infects everyone, whether they're highly educated or lowly educated. It's just, no one is immune from this sort of mob mentality. And so I think that a better way to fight against, this tyranny of the majority that you're worried about is separation of power, and in particular, limiting the power of, making sure that the power of the executive, the legislature, and the judicial branch are all balanced and can all work to combat each other if one institution becomes corrupt. In particularly, I think a strong judiciary is important.
Well, question okay. Well, is my mic on? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, because I'm looking at the TV and my thing never comes up when I'm talking. Oh, there it is, right there. Okay, so one, I don't think I ever called. I don't think I ever said that the electoral collegemen they couldn't be susceptible to hysteria. I believe they can be susceptible to hysteria. Just like you said, judges and actors and these things and stuff like that. I believe that the dissolution is possibly it's more. I think you're more susceptible as a person of the average American, because I think hysteria, personally, my personal opinion, comes from a lack of information. So I think basically because of your lack of information as a specific subject, it's very easy for you to get dragged into it. So, for example, during the 2016 election in my school, people were talking about how Donald Trump was going to put black people back into Africa, and me and my idiotic self believed that he had power to put black people back in Africa. But if I had a more in tune, sufficeful, better knowledge of what the executive powers of the executive branch can do, which they can't do, that's unconstitutional, then you would know that that's not even possibly, that can never happen in the history of this whole entire country. So that being said, the same thing would be said if I had to go for the people in the electoral college system, because people in the electoral college system, I feel personally, in my personal opinion, that they have a much more better knowledge of the judiciary and the legislative and the executive branch, or just government in period, than the average American. And so the hysteria for them would possibly, I'm not trying to say that they can't not get away from hysteria. No. But I would say that their lack of knowledge to be gained for that hysteria that they can be succumbed to would be very lessened to the average American.
Okay. So I think fundamentally I disagree on what causes hysteria. I think hysteria is often caused due to self-interest. Like if you look at the Salem witch trials, like a lot of the reason people kept accusing their neighbors is because they could get their land if they accused them. And I think a similar thing is true with, the hysterias that have popped up more recently. Let's take a recent example, the hysteria around 9/11. Mm-hmm. At first glance, this might seem, like an idiotic hysteria, this fear of terrorists, but actually it served, to advance push the American public, because under Bill Clinton, although he was still an interventionist to some degree, he had pulled back from military spending. He wasn't engaged in so many foreign adventures, but suddenly because of the, the mass hysteria, educated people like George W. Bush, although he was a dumb guy, he was an educated man. He went to Harvard.
Yeah.
And all his well-connected millionaire friends who were in the Republican Senate and Congress, and to be fair, Democrats as well, pushed forward, all sorts of authoritarian legislation that enabled them to eat away at American civil liberties at home, while embarking on, dangerous military interventions in Iraq and Afghanistan, which, benefited a bunch of companies enormously. And it wasn't because these people were uneducated that they fell to these hysterias. It's because it was beneficial to them. It's self-interest causes hysteria.
Well, I would have to say that in that terminology, I mean, that specific situation, I think that's specifically for me, it would be a great argument for the people in the electoral college system of their motivation and their interest. I think that's a really good example of motivation and interest being combined with hysteria. I just think naturally, in my personal opinion, that the reason why hysteria is able to catch on so easily is because the lack of informed people. I think the reason why the lack of informed people gains this whole entire attraction for hysteria to even begin with, because if you do not know what you're talking about, if you do not know if you do not have the knowledge of something, then I believe you're easily more susceptible to get swindled. So, for example, if I'm a person who loves TVs and I like to find the best purchases of TVs, but I don't have any knowledge this is a hypothetical situation, by the way. If I don't have any knowledge of people who scheme out there, or specific people who scheme to get people cheap prices for TVs, then especially if I saw someone and you had a TV and it was very cheap and you gave me the box and it's full of bricks, very, very easy move to pull, and I buy it and I'm like, oh, I just bought a TV so easily. And you just got tricked out of it. You just got bamboozled out of it because you didn't have any knowledge at all whatsoever. But matter of fact, let's not even go back to that point or that specific situation, because I feel like it's not even that effective into my own my own thing. But before I get to that, my mic was turned off the whole entire time while other people were talking. I swear, I was like, when you were talking about the electoral college system, I mean, not the electoral college system, but ranked voting, I was like, can I answer my question? Can I ask my question? Can I ask my question? And I kept saying it, but no one responded. And then I looked back and my mic was turned off. For S-Man, I wanted to ask you a specific question.
Okay.
Concerning
can I respond to your point before we get onto that question?
Yeah.
All right, so I mean, you're talking about people who aren't as educated as others when it comes to the electoral college and popular votes and all this stuff. I mean, I think it's purely entirely possible to have people get more informed. You know, they can look stuff up to find out what these things mean. Like, what are these political labels? Like, what do they mean? What do these candidates stand for? Like, you know, when Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton first ran, I wasn't so familiar with them. But you know, as the campaign drew on, and people would ask me if I could vote, who would I vote for? I could easily just look at their platform, find out what these things mean, and come back to them and say, "This is what I believe in. This is who I'd vote for." As you were saying, Rich, what were you going to ask me?
Okay. Would I just quickly be able to make a quick point?
Right now,
actually, I would say save it and let.
It's to do with this bit though. That's the thing. It's to do exactly with what Lapis has already said, and believe it or not, I'm actually going to agree with her. Because it doesn't matter about what you perceive the people to do with the electoral college is going to happen. It doesn't matter if you have the hysteria from the left or the hysteria from the right, because every side has hysteria regarding the opposite side. The thing is with the electoral college, it has nothing to do with the actual point of what the hysteria of the masses are. It has the point of actually being able to run a system to elect somebody to power. Nothing to do with the people that are going to be voting on that.
This is why I'm in favor of the electoral college system and not the popular vote.
So, ask your question, Rich.
Question I have is basically, I understand that basically the voting system that you have there in place, which is the ranked voting system, supports a more majority rule type of situation. Am I correct?
Yeah, you'd have to get a majority to win under ranked voting.
Okay, so the question I have to ask is, what would be done to, and this is even a gotcha type of question. I just want to really ask you, I just want to see what would happen. What would happen would the voter fraud turnout be possibly higher under ranked voting or lower under ranked voting compared to well, obviously there would be no, I would not assume there'd be voter fraud turnout in the electoral college system because these are just elected officials in there only making their own votes. So I'm not even going to ask that question. I'm going to ask solely, not comparison by the electoral college system, but just by ranked voting, a higher turnout or a lower turnout of voter fraud, and why? In your opinion.
Okay, so I'm not sure. It would very much depend on each individual elections. Hang on a second.
All right, I'm glad that this conversation could be pretty decent. And by the way, I'm probably going to shut up for a good portion of the debate. But what I do want to point out is, okay, I do not know if this looks right here because I'm trying to figure out the ratios. I divided like the EC by the population to get that ratio. For every one electoral college, that much population, has a say in that one electoral college.
All right, I'm back.
But
so
it seems kind of weird that
55
Texas has a little bit less of a little bit less of a population concentration per electoral college point than California, but Kansas, oddly enough, has more of a population concentration per electoral college vote than either one of those states, and it's like the smallest one out of the bunch. So I would have thought at first that Kansas would have. And this, by the way, this is per million. By the way, in case you're wondering.
Okay.
Well,
all right.
So to answer to get back to what I was saying, I do not think that ranked I mean, I don't think ranked voting is going to motivate people to, or more or less commit voter fraud. I don't think it's going to do that. I mean, with statewide elections, like for instance, Florida, Georgia, you know, in those states, people were alleging voter fraud was a thing, and that's under first past the post popular vote systems. And in the statewide races that are for president, Ohio, they caught someone voting illegally. They voted 6 or 7 times in 2012. But it wasn't an issue at hand because President Obama had won the state by almost 170,000 votes. So in terms of voting fraud, which I don't think is as big of an issue as people make it out to be completely honest, I don't think it's going to be a massive point of concern. I think that, if you can check people's voter IDs to see if if they're genuine. And by the way, I don't oppose voter ID laws. Just for the record, but that's another.
Yeah, just so that everybody does not think that S-Man is a dirty leftist. No.
S-Man's a liberal.
Also, S-Man, last one, okay? Because I love a question because I was holding it inside of me for so long. I had to get it out.
It's torture.
All right, ask your question, S-Man answer, and then I would like to give Dead Horse some time to speak.
So the question I have to ask is this, okay? So basically, we've been discussing this among other during our time throughout the conversation between things like the Electoral College hysteria, blah 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 blah. We've been talking about something else as well, which is voters need to know who they're voting for. Okay, now the question I have to ask is this, and combined with a statement as well. I don't think this is the reason why I like the Electoral College system a little bit more than even the popular vote to begin with. Again, with the insinuation that the people in the Electoral College system know more about the governance of America and specific legislation than people that are just the average American citizens. I personally think the average American citizen doesn't know they just don't care as much as I think many people would think that they would care. I think the reason why is because it doesn't come up to, it doesn't really affect it. It affects them, but they continue with their lives. It's the same way like I asked if illegal immigration was a crisis. It's not a crisis. And if you ask the average American, well, what has illegal immigration done to you today? They'll say nothing, because I just walked out of my work and just went to Amazon. I work at Amazon. I just went to Amazon. Nothing really happened today. So it's not a crisis at all whatsoever. But same thing goes with for people who are needing to know who they're voting for. I think that the rank system, what would you say to the people who say, like me, who think that the voters need to know more than they're voting for? I don't think that looking up specific things is going to give a person. I've been studying politics for 3 years. If I looked up one thing and already knew what it was, I'd be a master in politics. There's way more delivery. There's way more information. There's way more punch. There's way more historical analysis. And the Second Amendment, pro-abortion versus pro-life. It's not just what you think you know what it is. There's many layers like an onion to peel when it comes to politics. And this is the reason why I don't think that when a person just sees a specific thing on the internet, they're like, oh, well, I know what it is. I know who I'm going to vote for. No, I think they need to know exclusively what it is.
All right, to answer, I mean, people can go more in depth. I mean, of course, like if you're.
But would they though? Like the majority of Americans, would they really go in depth?
I don't know the majority of Americans, so I can't speak for the majority of Americans. Okay. And I mean, like they have the capability, they have it at their fingertips. So, like if you're a leftist and you hate neoliberalism, if you want to ensure you vote for someone who's not a neoliberal and you can check. You can do a very in-depth analysis. You can read about it until your eyes want to like fall out of your skull from how tired they are of looking at that stuff. You have that ability at your fingertips to do so, and I don't think that actually that's what I'd have to say in answer to that. I will have to go in about 5-10 minutes, but I hope to have another stream because there's another problem I have with the Electoral College, but that has to do with contingent elections, and I have a feeling it's probably not even going to get brought up in this stream.
Maybe.
Can I have a quick question? Because it is directed to everybody.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay.
Does it actually matter if the person knows what they're voting for, or does it matter more that they can vote?
What they're voting for. There's no reason to pick what you want to pick if you don't know what it is.
Well, yeah, I think that you should definitely know who you're voting for. Right. Imagine this, right? So, if you're gonna vote, you should know who you're voting for, because like if you don't know what you're voting for, but you decide, let's say you wanted to vote for Trump, that'd be insane. Hang on, I'll probably have to go. See you guys later.
See ya, man. Thanks for joining. But anyway, sorry everybody that our intellectual S-Man, the guy who freaking.
I think I was gonna like that. I think I was gonna like that statement. I think I was gonna really like it. I think I was gonna like it.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Okay, so I'll give Dead Horse some time to speak, and then I'll let Lapis speak because it's been a while.
Very patient.
Yeah, it did. Answer that question.
Okay, so sorry. Hello, Dead Horse. Nice to finally meet you, voice to voice.
Oh yeah. I kind of got lost in what we were talking about for a second because dogs and things. So
horses and stuff.
I was trying to catch the end of what he was saying, but obviously he had to go, so I didn't know where exactly he was going with that.
I know.
I think I was trying to bring up, I guess, a few things of what a mixture of a few different things what people were talking about. One of the things that I think would be really helpful is maybe the ranked in the primary, specifically because, like what you were talking about earlier, Dr. Khan, with we would have, we could possibly have Ted Cruz or Rand Paul or something that more people, a candidate that more people liked other than Trump. Because he was, dead bottom of the dead bottom of the heap for a lot of people. It's just the fact that some people liked him a lot. So
I think the big thing is that a good portion, let's say like 51%. I'm just throwing out an arbitrary number. Right. 51 to 52% of Republicans participating in the primaries, they considered like Trump to be dead last, and the rest considered him to be like dead first. But for all those that considered Trump dead last, they were split on who they considered to be their very first option. Like Cruz, Paul, Bush,
I was a Cruz guy.
You're a Cruz guy, Rich? All right, but anyway, I mean, if we had like ranked choice voting, it would be most likely that there wouldn't be enough people that would consider Trump to be their first or their second pick, and so therefore you would have possibly Rand Paul or someone else.
Cruz. I'm going.
That's I had a few different people I had picked out, and I was like, well, if this person wins, or if this person goes up to, if this person's in the top 3, I'm going for that guy. If this person's in the top 3, I'm going for that guy. Jeb Bush would have probably been at the bottom. Also,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
He would have been neck to neck with Trump in last. Maybe he would have been above him. Maybe
Trump would have still been over Jeb Bush, but not by much. They were probably been tied. But also something I wanted to bring up earlier because I thought it had some relevance, and I actually talked about this with Liberal Sanity Project, or I tried to, but I didn't.
LSP, I've come across the guy a few times. He seems pretty chill.
I attempted to.
What's his politics?
Sounds like a drug.
Politics about?
He seems to be. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he seems to be more of a not quite so progressive Democrat type of guy.
Okay,
he seems pretty center left.
Democrat?
He's a Democrat from 10 years ago. So
like Obama?
Like a Clinton, more like that. More like a Clinton type of person.
Okay, so if he's more like for Bill Clinton, well then that would put him more, I don't know, I guess dead center than center left, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But anyway,
he does have some more left wing positions. But anyway, what we talked about was this specific issue.
All right, I would say wrap it up, and then I'll give Lapis some time to speak.
And okay, sorry. And the
right.
The 17th Amendment, which is basically.
Hello, Dead Horse.
Sorry,
Dead Horse.
Hey, can you hear me?
You cut out and then you muted yourself. We can hear you now.
Okay, sorry, I had a phone call. What the 17th Amendment did was basically give people the right to vote for their senators, which actually caused a lot more issues than it did fix. See, what happened is basically before that had happened, the state house would elect who was going to be the senator, and they would run and they try to gain popular support, but it would pretty much be the state house because they had more of an idea of what the state actually needed, what the state's actual needs were, rather than just some person who doesn't actually know the ins and outs of the whole state. They're just voting for their self-interest. That was the purpose of having split houses. But because we have it separated now, whereas we get gajillions of dollars going towards towards all these senators, which each one has two, and each state has two. It just makes everything way more complicated than it needed to be. So that was one of the things we did, and then this whole thing, which we pretty much everybody's kind of had their own statements about. I didn't really bring up ranked choice voting in that, but primary sounds good.
All right, so Lapis, get what you wanted to say off your chest.
All right. So, well, a lot of that is complicated because everyone was more responding to S-Man than they were responding to me.
Sorry. Well, he has been, to his credit, he has been the most vocal against Electoral College in recent months, more so than you.
Yeah,
I mean, alongside with Ham.
Electoral College very often,
You don't really care enough about it. But
well, I mean,
go on.
It's American politics.
Yeah, your country's politics be damned. I only give a shit about my own, but
no, I do care about American politics, but just the Electoral College in particular is not, the most interesting topic in the world. But
it really is not in the grand scheme of things.
Elections. But anyway, I think that, first of all, we're running across a few problems here. First, in terms of defense of the Electoral Colleges, something that people have brought up in defense of the Electoral College is that it almost always mirrors the popular vote. Well, if that's the case, why not just do the popular vote, as opposed to having like 3 occasions where, the Electoral College has gone haywire and made decisions that usually were reversed in the end.
Wait, what was that about mirroring the popular vote?
Well, you said that there was only, I think it was someone said, sorry, I got a bit confused. Someone had said earlier that the Electoral College had only departed from the popular vote 3 times in history.
4.
Point in favor of the Electoral College. Yeah.
Well, I don't think anybody has necessarily said that it does mirror the popular opinion. I mean, for the most part, the majority does get their way.
That's what's being said. The majority of people were getting their way.
It's only most of the time, though. Although Electoral College does make it possible for the minority to get their way in a given presidential election.
Correct.
Plurality.
Which has only been 4 times.
Well, yeah, plurality, like the second place opinion of who they want as president.
Right.
This is why they have a 90% success rate.
And there's a good I guess my reason for it was the fact that it's more of a thing that's supposed to be, or at least in the way that I was taught that it's more supposed to be the states are electing the president, and he's it's more of a representation of the states rather than a representation necessarily of
people.
The particular people, and that's another reason why I'm not specifically really into the idea of getting rid of it. So,
but the Electoral College, as it is, does not actually represent.
Oh, what? Okay.
Sorry, I
fairly.
Couldn't hear that.
I mean, some states have more electoral votes,
right.
per proportion of their population than others.
But the reason that it's weighed that way is, because each state is not going to have the same needs.
This is the reason why they started off. They get 3 votes already to begin off with, the smaller states.
Right, and each state doesn't exactly have the same needs, and like some states may want corn subsidies, and other states have other specific items that they want passed in Congress, which
Actually, Ohio's actually supposed to have 20 actually to begin with, but they took away the 2 to give to the 3 to rest of a smaller state.
Can I ask a quick question?
By all means, you've been quiet, common sense guy.
How many people are actually on the Electoral College's side at this moment in time? Because is Lapis on her own?
You got
me?
It seems to be.
Right,
yeah,
I'm going to switch sides. I'm going to switch sides.
Okay.
Because I can argue from both sides.
It's all right, Jason. I mean, I'm trying to get a more diverse opinion on my Strike Force discussions chat group, but the thing is, fucking Cult of Ham decided to be all hot-headed and block 2 plebs. Yeah. block 2 plebs, and then I was all like, I'm not going to have some bitch-made motherfucker go kicking people out of my own group chats by blocking them.
Right. Well, Lispy would probably love to do this kind of thing, but he's kind of the guy that is more of a I have to have 35 sources in order to have a basic conversation, which is one reason it was like
a liberal sanity project.
Yeah.
Do you think that he really would be interested in joining my chat group?
Possibly. It just kind of depends on if he can put down like his gajillion sources to have like an actual conversation.
Yeah,
because we can't all just spend all of our time coming up with.
Could I ask a quick question regarding the Electoral College?
I just want to make a quick funny jab. I just want to make a quick funny jab, though. Speaking of sources, I find it funny that Lapis is not saying, "Where's your sources? Where's your sources?"
Well, I mean,
I'm joking.
This is based on opinion, right?
Where's your sources?
Yes.
I guess in a large part it is, but anyway, go on, Jason.
Well, everybody's been talking about what the electoral college number is, as in regard to is it 20 points, is it 5 points, is it 30 points? Why isn't it? No, they're fine, but why isn't it a case of one state gets 1 point and do it like that and have a lower, instead of it being just a majority of whatever it is that you have to get first past the post? Why not that if
population? I think
I haven't truly thought deep into that of what the repercussions would be if there was like only one electoral college per state, just like there's only 2 senators, per state. I don't know. I almost think that all the people that are against electoral college would have an even bigger gripe with electoral college.
That's true.
To find that, you have to ask the question, why 275 to begin with? Because if you do that, you're changing the number of what you have to do to win. So why do you need 275 to even begin with? What was the reason why 275
that's the point.
Was the number?
He was saying 50.
That's exactly the point. That's exactly the point that I was making. It would be a descriptor of 50 states, and each of them get 1 or 2 points, which means it would either be 50 points or 100 points, which means that you could then actually split it, that if you don't actually win the whole state, you only get 1 point instead of the full 2 points.
Well,
and then you could actually do it like that instead, so you could get a majority over the whole of the country.
Well, I have a response to that. The reason why you don't specifically want that is because it would be even more unfair. Because you'd have, like California's got a zillion people in it compared to Idaho, who has a. It's the same problem that they would have with the electoral college as if we had one vote per state. It just wouldn't. It would be even more unfair because I think there might be more red states. I'm not.
Well, I'm trying to figure out why 270 to begin with. That's what I'm trying to figure out right now. So I'm looking it up.
Because you had all the electoral college points up, and that's the pass from the majority.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't remember what the exact number is of the total electoral college points that there is that people can have. I think if you get a split tie, it's like 269 or something like that. So 269 plus 269, that's about 538. About that much. I think my math is right in that anyways.
Nope, I don't got it. I mean, I'm trying to find it.
No problem. Though I would say that the rebuttal to what my question was that it was a case of it's unfair. Then if you're saying that having 1 or 2 points or 3 points is unfair for the rest of the country to have electoral points, why is it okay to have 38 points to 5 points?
Because of the population, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's based on who lives where, because the majority of everybody is crowded around the coasts and and in Texas. So Texas is kind of a coast.
There is one point that I have to bring up, and I think that even though hardly anybody likes Adam Conover, well, maybe Lapis likes Adam Conover if Adam ruins everything.
Adam gets everything wrong.
I don't know for absolute certain, but I give him the benefit of the doubt on this, and even Steven Crowder says that it's true. When he was doing his response video to Adam on Electoral
College. I watched
it
today, actually.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, basically, the point that Adam Conover brought up, and that Steven Crowder was not was not contending with is that the ratios of electoral college points to the amount of people within a given state are disproportionate between the states. Like, for example, the weight. In other words, Wyoming has more power per 100,000 people when it comes to electoral college points than California does, because the ratios are massively different. With Wyoming, here, I actually have it pulled up. It's about 500,000, actually. Yeah, 500,000 in Wyoming, and yet they get like 3 electoral college points. And in California, they let me pull it up again. California has almost 40 million, and they have 55 electoral college points.
That's kind of what my whole point or premise was. It's a case of, if the points are okay as they are, in a hypothetical, obviously I understand that it's not going to be changed, and none of us are going to be able to change it, which is fine. But in a hypothetical, why wouldn't it be an idea to lower it to either 1 or 2 points per state? Not because that you're trying to represent the population of the people anymore, but you're representing the state as a whole, regardless of the population of the people.
Well, wouldn't you have to represent the whole by the population?
No, what I'm trying to say is that if you have California that's stuck on 2 points, then it doesn't contend with Wyoming or Idaho, for instance, that also has 2 points. They have the same points. Their power is then completely equal, regardless of population.
If it's that easy, then why not just do 2? Then why? I mean, if the numbers of those many people is that easy, if we just want to do 1 and 2, then what would be the problem with 270?
You wouldn't go to 270.
I mean,
exactly.
Well, say it again. What did someone say?
You wouldn't go to 270.
270.
Well,
each
go ahead.
state got 1 electoral vote.
The electoral splits the difference. The electoral college kind of splits the difference between those two ideas, between the popular vote and the idea of just giving every state 2 votes. You get what I'm saying? So it's like.
No, I understand, but I'm not refuting the electoral college, though. I'm saying, why don't you
give an idea?
Right. Yeah. I get your idea, but that's probably why they didn't set it up that way.
And we're just answering why it's not set up that way.
No, I know why it's not set up that way, because it's trying to regard the population and trying to do the population regarding with the points that come up with the electoral college. I understand the reasons why, but what I'm trying to do is draw a comparison, for instance, with the UK system, which is no matter what in the county lines, which you could classify as a state, no matter what the population is in that county line or state line, they have 1 seat. And those 1 seats all add up to a specific point.
Calm down, boy.
Calm down. From that.
Sorry, hold on.
No worries.
You got him going crazy here for the electoral college.
All right, I've muted Horse, so go on, Jason.
Yeah. So
I've muted Horse's dog.
Oh, okay.
So basically, what I was meaning was that with the state that gets 1 seat is the same as having it as 1 point for the electoral college. So all you're doing is adding up the whole population that is into that particular thing, winning the majority of a vote, and having that vote as a 1 point for the electoral college, which means the people that win that vote in that state have the same power as anybody else that wins the majority in any other state or county.
Yum.
Crickets. I'm sorry, I guess. But actually, there was a point that I kind of wanted to bring up that Lapis mentioned earlier, like at the closer to the beginning of this stream. And you said that the Electoral College was not representative of people in a given state. Like, elaborate by that, because I do not know what exactly you mean.
It's basically saying that, voters in Wyoming have disproportionate power to, say, voters in California because of the way the system is set up.
Right. Trying to
why is it set up that way?
Trying to explore exactly why that is. I mean, okay, can somebody stop slapping their knee, please?
Please, Mom. Okay. Okay, go on. I'm joking with you.
But anyway,
so in Wyoming, a 1 electoral vote would be roughly for every 100,000 100,095. 95. It's hard. I hate long numbers.
Just read it out.
195,000. There we go. And then one electoral vote in California would be 712,000. You know, and to me that's an injustice. Why is one state have so much less? You know, why is their votes worth so much less than another?
It's not that their
population
votes are worth
probably.
less. It's
What?
not that their votes are worth less. It's the fact that they're the population is so drastically different.
That's what I'm thinking of. Like, you're right. That's what I'm always thinking of.
I mean, it's the population is so drastically different, and in such. I mean, you would piss off all of Wyoming if you. I mean, you have to handicap them somehow. Otherwise, you don't hold everything together. You get what I'm saying? Like, they're not represented basically at all.
So they
Well, then
why
it
even?
works
Why
the
even?
other way too. If
Why
you
would
strip
they-
California and larger states of representation,
But they're not stripped.
They're
They've
all-
got.
Whoa.
That's the
One
whole
at a time.
purpose.
their voice
Let's-
is
let's-
worth much less.
Oh, cool.
Okay, something fell over for somebody.
Yeah, that was for me. It was this conversation. Anyway,
Anyway, sorry. So I do not know of where we want to pick up, like
Pick it up.
Lapis. Was there some point that you want to?
Go ahead and finish, Lapis, and I'll respond.
Okay. So when you do it like this, you also leave Californians and people living in large states underrepresented because their votes are not adding up to the same electoral power that, say, people in Wyoming have. And that alienates them from the system.
Is it because of population?
Horse.
Yeah. Well, my point was, it's you're giving. Okay, it'd be like.
May I play devil's advocate?
It's the point of giving a minority a actual vote. Like, it's not such and such has more power or less power. It's saying that you actually get a voice rather than you don't get anything.
But they would get.
I mean, they still get. As Wyoming is still, as a state, is still going to get way less of a voice than California. It's just the fact.
It has way less people. I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it gives it enough of a reason to still be a state, if that makes sense.
So is it a small state? Is that because they have small people? I mean, isn't it fair that they already get like 3 electoral cosmos to run off with because they're already a small state. So since they're already a small state, they already get 3 to run off with. And it's just the only thing that's based off it now is their population.
Couple points that I kind of want to make. First off is the point of how a person's vote does not matter if you do not live in a swing state or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, let's keep in mind that swing states change. Like before 2016, in the 2000s,
I was blue.
Throughout a whole lot of the 2010s, or well, actually no, specifically 2012. But throughout the 2000s and 2012, well, even a good portion of 1990, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and well, those are the main ones. They were like consistently, loyally Democratic, and yet they had changed to become swing states within 2016. And also, your vote does matter. I mean, no matter what state that you live in, because of the fact that you might not like be the deal breaker. You determine more of where your electoral college points are going to go to, of which presidential candidate they are going to go to, more than anything else. I mean, that's what basically you're voting on in a presidential general election, is to where your electoral votes go to. And also, I want to say the reason as to why that it's disproportionately powered, like people in big states, the proportion is kind of watered down. Their power for their electoral college points is watered down compared to like Wyoming. I think it's mainly because of how culturally monolithic a whole lot of these states would be.
Exactly.
And so, generally speaking, you're going to just have huge swaths within these states, just in general, be voting one way almost no matter what. Like people looking at similar news organizations that would have well, I don't want to say a monopoly because it's not a complete monopoly, but they'll just be loyally watching a certain news organization or whatever, and that's going to be like
CNN.
The determiner of their opinion. Yeah, CNN for New York, for example, Fox News for Alabama, stuff like that. They're more culturally monolithic, and so because of that, I'm trying to like gain my thoughts together for exactly what I want to say. In California, because of how united they are in their votes, they would like just roll over Wyoming completely. I know a dozen other rural states as well.
Well, I
And
think
so the Electoral College is designed to like circumvent that, them just constantly mauling over the rural states as far as voting systems go, no matter what you can do.
Well, throughout this conversation, I'm starting to realize more and more and more of just how beautiful to me the electoral college system is, in my personal opinion, because of its lack of constant change and its lack of and it's more promotion of.
I'm just gonna
most of the time convenient voting. Convenient candidacy to pick for who you want as president.
Anyway, Lapis or Jason, was there something either you two wanted to say?
Okay. So on the point that the Electoral College is a better system for who to pick for your presidential candidate, if you actually wanted a more diverse representation of parties and candidates, a proportional representation system would work better, because in the Electoral College...
Talking about ranked choice?
I'm talking about proportional representation, the amount of the percentage that you win in the popular vote is the percentage that you get in the electoral
ranked choice.
Oh,
no,
are you talking about regular popular voting, like first past the post or whatever fancy term that S-Man thrown about? Or are you talking about ranked choice voting?
I'm talking about proportional representation. It's a different system.
Different system.
In other words,
Google.
Dark. In other words, it's a case of if you win 51% of the vote, you get 51% share of the government.
Oh, okay. I mean, basically, from my
in other words, you don't get.
That's how the Senate, how the House works.
Yeah, but basically, that's my understanding of what the House is supposed to be. I mean, that's supposed to be like the most direct way that the people can have a say in what happens legislatively.
Well, the House seats are, they don't necessarily adequately and accurately represent the various populations of America. They're often heavily gerrymandered.
They kind of do. I mean,
a bit more so than, say, the Senate or the Electoral College, but they're still quite a heavily flawed institution.
Well,
yeah, I would actually I would actually put the House akin to the House of Lords in the United Kingdom, as in they're almost useless.
A House of Lords or House of Commons, because I always understood the House of Commons to be more similar to the House of Representatives.
I would say that the House itself is very, very similar to the House of Lords, as in the House of Lords is what's there to be the checks and balances to check over what the House of Commons is supposed to have done.
Okay. Hey, I have a quick question. Mr. I'm sorry, I forgot. I was going to say it. I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Jason. Mr. Just call me Jason. The common sense guy's a little bit too
thank God.
pretentious.
I was going to say Mr. British man, and I felt so bad if I was going to say that. Okay, so I have a quick question. How is it? This is off topic. I think we're all getting a good discussion out here. But question: how is Theresa May looking right in your country right now? How's she looking? Is she looking bad? Is she looking good? I don't know what she's looking like. I don't know.
It depends on who you speak to. It depends on who you speak to, and I mean I don't want to talk on it for too long because it's dark on channel,
very fast.
But very, very quickly, I would say around about 80 to 90% of people would say that they want to get rid of her, regardless if you're conservative or Labour.
Okay, all right, that's what I had a debate with someone about that earlier today. All right, go on. Chip cheerio.
I've said my piece, so I'll pass the floor over to Lapis if she wants to continue.
All right, Lapis.
I think I said what I wanted to say.
All right, .con. Chip cheerio. I'm sorry, no, go on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't have much to say in response. I mean, I think I've said pretty much all I wanted to say. I mean, We still got about 30 minutes if we wanted to go on longer.
Jesus, really? Dang.
I mean, for the time frame that I set up, anyways.
Really bums me that
I
S-Man
think
left.
this has been a good discussion.
Right. I mean, I think S-Man, he had something. He had like a little good. It was good. I like what he was saying.
I told him I would talk to him about this, and then like he bailed.
Jesus.
if we had Cult of Ham on, I would have to like get out my leash and whip to keep him tamed.
Well, that sounds very kinky, Derek Con.
Sounds very slavery. But look, not
good.
God, Jesus.
I was not meaning it that way. Okay, if I wanted to go off of stereotypes, no, I would have an electroshocker for him.
Oh dear.
I'm sorry. Do you want the whip, Rich?
I'm good, man. I'm black. I already had the whip. Why did I think the whip.
I would like to jump on. I would like to jump on a point that S-Man made very, 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 very early. That's great English, considering I'm English.
All right.
Earlier, which was he was suggesting that Ireland, which has a good system, is I don't know. Never mind. Don't worry, because I was confusing Republic of Ireland with Northern Ireland, so it's fine. So don't worry about it. Different systems.
I mean, I take it that with how they... Okay. I got a question about the UK system of government now.
Oh, fuck.
Parliament!
What? I'm sorry. Aren't you knowledgeable of your own system of government?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. It just depends on... it just depends on if... people would actually, not yourselves, but even English people just don't understand the system that well.
Well, actually, first,
understandable because Americans don't over here.
First question is: isn't House of Commons aren't all the Commons elected on a say every 2 years?
4 to 5.
Wow, really? Every 4 to 5?
Yeah.
Jesus.
The reason why we had a general election in 2017 was because Theresa May, in her infinite wisdom, thought that she would call a general election to get a bigger mandate to be able to push forward her idea of Brexit. That went well for her.
A prime minister, how long do their terms last typically?
It depends on how long they can keep getting elected.
Yeah, Margaret Thatcher. I think how many times?
So they don't have term
limits. There is a limit. There is a limit. They're only allowed 3 terms.
Okay, how long is each term?
Yeah. Sorry.
How long is each term?
5 years.
5 years.
Up to 4 to 5 years, depending on when the election period has changed. It used to be 4 years, but it's now recently changed to a 5-year period or 5-year gap.
Is that for
FDR
both
much?
Canada? Is that for both Canada and the UK?
No, Canada
I don't know
has
about
no limits. You can keep getting elected as long as the public will vote you in.
Okay, Canada has no limits, but is each individual term 5 years?
I think it's 4 years.
4 years? Okay. I know that South Korea, for their president, that you only get 1 term and it's a 6-year term. But
I know in North Korea it's only 1 term and that's it.
Forever.
You're the guy. You're the dictator.
How exactly is it that the prime minister is voted in? I mean, do the people get to vote, or I kind of always thought that it was the House of Commons that votes on who is prime minister?
Surprisingly not. It depends on the party. The party themselves, depending on the membership or regarding the backing that they have. Basically, if the Conservatives themselves decide that they're going to elect Theresa May, they will do it internally. Labour themselves have a different system where they use their membership, where you have to be a member to be able to vote for their democratically elected leader. UKIP has something quite similar. Liberal Democrats have something actually quite similar, but they don't have a form of a membership. But basically, every party will elect their leader internally rather than being elected externally to the general public.
Wait, elect their own leader. I mean, you make it sound kind of like you have party leaders, kind of like here in the United States with House of Representatives. Like, for example, Paul Ryan is the leader of the House Republicans. So, yeah, is Speaker. He's the minority speaker, basically the leader of the Republican Party. And then you got Nancy Pelosi, who is like the leader of the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives. I mean, that's kind of what it sounds like that you're explaining, Jason.
Kind of. It's not exactly like that. The way that The way that it happens over in the UK is that, for instance, I'll just name a couple of parties. You have the Conservatives, you have the Labour, you have Lib Dems, you have UKIP, which don't really have a representation. The SNP, the Greens, yeah, as well. Thank you very much. And each of them will have a form of internal leadership candidacy, as in, so people can speak for their individual parties inside the House of Commons. So, say for instance that the Greens only get four seats, for instance, so they have 4 MPs after that. They will have one leader, so that can speak for that party and give their input across on what's happening. The same reason why the DUP have now been put forward so quickly, because their 10 members that they actually won in Northern Ireland is considered a prize goal at this moment in time.
All right. I mean, what is a prime minister? Are there multiple prime ministers, like one for each party? What?
No,
There's
only one.
And one prime minister who leads the country.
Okay, yes. I didn't think so, but I don't know. I mean, I've always thought that there's only like one prime minister per parliamentary government, like one for Canada, one for UK. Like they're basically the equivalent of the United States president. But I'm just a little bit confused on how you guys choose them, because you made it sound like that the Conservative Party, they vote on their prime minister more openly. Whereas
no. The Conservatives actually vote. Technically, they vote more enclosed, as in their own group, as in you have to be a member of the Tories, so to speak. And I don't mean a generalised member. You have to be an actual member of the party itself, as in either being an MP or considered backdoor.
I thought that's what you said that the Labour specifically is.
No, the membership classified for Labour is a case of a grassroots movement, meaning that they have generalised people as part of their membership or conglomerate, depending on who you speak to.
Okay. Yeah,
but basically, Labour, I hate to actually say it because obviously I'm more of a Tory than I am of Labour, but the way that Labour generally elect their leader is probably more democratic and more akin to an American system, rather than the way that the Tories elect their leader, because Labour themselves would actually take it to their membership, which is general people that pay a fee to be members, and they get to elect their leader.
They pay a fee to be a member.
Yeah, I was paying. I'm not anymore. I was paying a fee to be a member of UKIP, and yes, surprise, shock, horror. But I was paying a fee to be part of UKIP. I was actually going to run as a councillor at one particular point. Sorry?
Go.
So you dropped out of the UKIP party?
Who? What?
You dropped out of the UKIP party.
I was never actually part of the UKIP party. I was part of the membership. I was actually going to run as a councillor. Actually, all I had to do was get 10 signatures, and they would have actually put us up as part of the membership, proper membership. But I decided against it.
Oh, why?
Okay.
Because of disability. I wouldn't have been able to run properly.
So you were part of the membership, but you were not a common, were you?
No.
No, you weren't. Okay.
No.
So how do commons? Okay, I don't know. You might have answered this a little bit earlier, but are commons elected in the same way that House of Representatives are, directly by the people within their given district?
Yes. The district council state that type of instance. Yes, they're the political area or circumference of area. Yeah.
So that's the same as the House of Representatives, except they get 3 more years than a House member of the United States.
Yeah.
Okay. And so to explain a little bit further, by the way, Rich, if you're trying to say something, you're muted because I was getting a whole bunch of background noise. But anyway, so to try to break down how prime ministers are elected, is it directly by the people?
No, not really. You don't really you don't really pick out the idea of who's going to be prime minister. You mainly get to pick the party and the policies of the party. The figurehead of the party, or should we say the face of the party, is normally picked internally by the party themselves. So generally, most people didn't elect to pick Theresa May. They generally elected to have the Conservatives as the lead, as the parliament.
Okay.
Yeah.
That it's starting to make sense now. So the people vote on who they want to be a common, and
Yes, an MP.
like
an MP.
a
Yeah.
Hold on a second, I'll be
conservative.
right back.
Okay, an MP. So,
Yes.
so an MP is like another way of saying a common
Member
in the
of
House of Commons.
member of Parliament.
All right. So they vote on who's going to be an MP, like say conservatives versus Tories, and
Conservatives versus Labour. Yeah.
okay, or conservatives versus Labor. I'll run with this example, but with how so the people vote on who is going to be their MP, but
Yes.
the majority of people within a majority of people within a majority of districts, they vote conservative, for example, and they don't necessarily choose who's going to be the prime minister, but because they voted for conservatives, it just automatically gets chosen that Theresa May would be the prime minister.
If that's what the Conservative Party elected as their leaders, that leadership, then
Right.
yes.
Okay, so the people choose the majority party, and then the majority party chooses who's going to be their leader. Well, actually, the parties choose of who's going to be their leader. But
First, yes.
But if the party is in the majority, they ultimately choose who is the prime minister.
May I butt in after you finish? Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, generally what would happen, like, say, for instance, when Theresa May finishes her session, if she doesn't get kicked out or whatever happens, it will be a case of the Conservative Party themselves, using them as their massive example, would decide whether or not that they wanted her to run as leader or not. If they didn't want her to run as leader, then they would get rid of her. Then they would have an internal election themselves to decide who wanted to be leader. Then once the Conservatives have decided who wanted to be their leader, they could then put forward a manifesto that would then be voted on by the general public. That would generally be the way that the general election works.
All right. And by the way, I just raised your volume because I should have done that a while ago because you were the quietest guy here, but I just did it. Anyway, Dead Horse, you wanted to say something?
Oh, I was just saying that what I was talking about earlier, pre-17th Amendment, that's kind of similar to the way the Senate used to work. Would be, running your house, running Republicans running for the House and Democrats running for the House and state Senate or state House stuff, and then they send a senator to Washington. So it's kind of the same. That's all I wanted to link in because it's kind of the same idea as what he was talking about with Theresa May.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a better way to run it.
Well, this is certainly interesting, learning the way that the UK works. I mean, I don't think I had it broke down to me as well as it is right now. I was about to say as easily, but no, this was not an easy conversation.
Yeah, it's not easy. Yeah, it's really hard, actually.
The thing is, the one thing that I really love about the idea of the American set of politics is not the Electoral College, it's not the House, it's not the Senate or anything else like that. It's the fact that you get to decide who you want to be your candidacy for your presidency, regardless if it's Democrat or Republican.
Right.
Generally, I don't know what it's like in Canada, but generally,
you vote for your candidate in the local district, and whoever has a majority will vote on who becomes the new prime minister.
Oh, so that's even a slightly better system than what ours is.
Okay, so
America wins.
So basically, if I was to take your system of government and project it onto the United States, basically, if we had your system of government, the Republican-controlled House in 2016 would have chosen Donald Trump, and regardless of what the people actually wanted.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a possibility. They
probably wouldn't have chosen Trump, but
yeah, I was going to say I don't think the Republican Party overall would have chose Trump. To be honest,
yeah, they probably would have chose something like Jeb Bush or someone like that.
Really? But
we would probably got
Jeb
Rubio.
Bush or Ted Cruz.
I'm thinking Rubio or Cruz.
I don't think
not Cruz. Everybody hates Cruz. So
what do you mean everybody hates Cruz?
Well, I don't think I don't think the Republican Party hated Ted Cruz so much. I mean,
at one point they did.
I honestly think that they dislike Rand Paul the most because he's just a little bit more fringe compared to a whole bunch of other Republicans because he's so
Rand Paul's
libertarian.
whiny.
What?
Because Rand Paul tends to be whiny.
Tends to be whiny. I mean, what do you mean?
Oh dear. Internal politics.
He's correct
Whiny.
a lot of times, but he's very unlikable as far as the way that he goes about his argumentation. I agree with everything he says almost all the time.
Me too.
Most of the time.
Even though I don't want to, because I'm conservative.
Go with like 85% of the time. I agree with Rand Paul, but when he doesn't get his way, rather than coming up with a principled, reasonable compromise, not like a total like compromise of everything I believe in, but just something that everybody can agree to that doesn't make you look like you're compromising on everything. He'd just rather just say no, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
really
kind of similar to what's going on in the Brexit negotiations for the UK. Just say no to everything.
You want to talk about him like not being a compromiser. I mean, essentially, it sounds like that you're making him out to be like an obstructionist. Basically.
I don't know about that. I mean,
it's kind
of
he
believes what he believes, but he won't say, okay, well, if I get this out of this, I can deal with this bad thing.
So you'd like him to be a bit more compromising.
He seems like a 99% kind of guy, or like a 90% kind of guy.
99% type of guy.
He seems like a 90% kind of guy. If it's not 90% of what I want, I like him to be like like it's 75%, maybe a 70% kind of guy. Just
That does almost sound in the same way of what Cruz is.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say this, that whether or not a person is an obstructionist is definitely not a deal breaker for me on considering them to be a viable politician for a certain position. In this case, we're talking about the Senate, but even in the presidency.
Well, yeah. Well, that's why I don't agree with Cruz on pretty much any social issue. I
think that's the super majority of everybody in this call.
I think that he actually is for like a legalization of marijuana and a few other things.
He said that during his debate with Beto O'Rourke, but I don't know. I mean, it almost seems unbelievable. Now, Rand Paul, I know he has a vast history of being supportive of marijuana legalization.
It's kind of like one of those things where you know Ted Cruz would never smoke weed. But
I'm Ted Cruz. I smoke weed.
So perhaps he's
Lapis, start over that.
Yeah, start over.
I said Ted Cruz is like porn before, so he's a hypocrite on this issue too.
Well, yeah, he's never smoked weed, but I don't think he would hate because I don't think he would. It's like one of those things that doesn't come past your mind, so you don't think about being well. I'm okay with this, I guess. Sure.
Hey, somebody has returned.
Who? Is that S-Man?
Yes.
S-Man!
Oh yeah. Okay. So never mind.
Oh my God, S-Man. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
S-Man.
Oh, stop that.
Oh my fucking God. Anyway, I'm going to lose my fucking wanker.
Oh my gosh! I'm calling out the effeminate degenerate for daring to be on a live stream with the insidious dark conservatarian.
What the fuck are you talking about, mate?
Anyway. I mean, joke, but Owen did do that.
Yeah.
Well, he's getting to where he doesn't respond to me, so.
Okay,
in my group chat, he did. About my associations.
Okay,
and then I told him, well, you're associating with people who stream with fascists, like Christy Winters. She seems quite fond of J.F. Gariepy.
Wait, what?
Well, he does never mind.
Motherfucker, what?
Gariepy is the
type of person Kevin Logan. He streams with Andy Worski, who's
handicapped.
A complete bigot, complete alt-writer. And then Owen's like, well, actually, that's a bit different. Well, it's always different.
There's no a bit
when
different.
Actually,
Wait,
everywhere he
Lapis.
goes, he gets to decide what I do with my life, and I'm sick of it. Frankly, I'm sick of it. He's so entitled.
Yeah,
you do want to. You do realize that this is on. You do realize that this is a public on-air stream, right?
Yeah.
I don't care. Come at her. Come at her if you want to. Where you gonna be at? What time?
Yeah.
Where you at?
Okay. Actually,
Anytime Conor McGregor. All right.
Come on.
I'll
Okay.
take it. All
So
right.
this is basically my interpretation of how Owen's going to respond to this. He'll be like, "Well, Lapis, you don't understand. I claim to be against sexism and double standards for the oppressed women's, but I, as a minority, have the right to tell people that my standards do as I say, not as I do. I'm calling out Lapis."
That's the worst accent I've ever heard in my life.
Okay, yeah. So basically,
for streaming with the notorious racist, the dark conservatarian.
All right, Conor McGregor.
You know what this kind of reminds me?
The dark conservatarian a fascist because he's pro-life.
He's a fascist.
Oh, yeah.
He's a racist, despite arguing against the racism.
Well, that's what somebody told me.
What the fuck is his name? What the fuck? Richard Spencer. Richard Spencer's so irrelevant.
Oh, no.
He argued against Richard Spencer's racism, but .con is still racist because he didn't defend me against the big giant known as the American Josh and against the racist cult of Haggis.
I don't know where the cult of Haggis came from.
That was from
To be
Ham.
clear, I do think that Ham was racist in his actions against Owen, but Owen, just stop dictating people's lives. There are so much more important issues in the world than
He's better than you.
Hey, I'm going. Oh, yeah, sure. Owen is better than everybody. He thinks that he's Black Jesus.
Is he better than Anna Kasparian, though?
Well, is he?
I think he's more arrogant than Anna Kasparian.
No. I agree with Dead Horse.
I'm fucking better than you, .con, because I don't platform racists, even though I had you on my stream once.
You know, wait, are you going Scottish?
Possibly common sense guy.
I gotta say, you know what this kind of reminds me of? This kind of reminds me of Cuck Norris. You know, where Cuck Norris like drop kicked that one pro-life woman.
Roundhouse.
Oh yeah,
Roundhouse. He also got the nickname of Cuck Norris, but yeah, Cuck Norris, despite the person being a woman, decided to drop kick her just for a
Roundhouse
disagreement.
Drop kick something completely different.
Okay, roundhouse kick, fine, Jason, you smart ass.
A drop kick would have been way more impressive.
Like Owen is Cuck North, where he wants to like roundhouse kick Lapis for daring to disagree on who should be or should not be associated with. But anyway, okay, that kind of fell flat. I mean,
you tried though, mate. You tried.
And that's what
good effort.
I mean, it's still, I think, a viable analogy. Like, I still think it's a legitimate analogy, despite how it did not get hardly a chuckle out of anyone.
Ha ha.
It's too late. It's too late. It's too late now. Right. It's sympathy. Sympathy does not count.
Shut up, Rich. Okay.
Listen to me. I believe.
I've tried to get.
If you are a white person.
I've tried to get 3 different debates set up with Owen about just different things.
I will never debate you. I will never debate you, Dead Horse, because you have curb stomped my skull in on the issues at hand.
Okay.
It's like been like 3 different times. I'm like, hey man, we should talk about this, and like I guess he has me muted on Twitter.
I mean,
and then ignores me on his live stream. So
I'm not the only one then. I'm not the only one who's muted. Well, actually, no, I'm blocked. Although I'm actually blocked.
Yeah, I think he like treats you worse, Jason, than Dead Horse. Oddly enough, even though that Dead Horse is like the fiercer debater against Owen, then really any one of us on this stream, I say.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not gonna lie though. On my stream with Owen, the most recent one I did, when he was reading quotes of what Ham was saying, like, I know I shouldn't laugh at really messed up things. But it was so hard not to.
I'm sorry, S-Man. That was a really hard stream to listen to. I had to like come back like 3 different times because I'm like, are they still talking about this? It's been a fucking hour.
No. I don't blame you. But it was
I
like
got shadow banned.
I mean,
when I was there.
like Owen has the right to set his own boundaries.
I understand.
I don't think that Ham's behavior was appropriate, and he's continued to, send nasty messages to Owen. I mean, he sent one today.
Yeah.
However, I wish he would stop trying to police people's associations. I don't understand it because he's so hypocritical about it. He
unless you realize that you're not a fascist, right?
On the far left, and people who are bigoted, but they happen to hold left-wing opinions, so it's okay. But then when I associate with someone who's like somewhat to the center, he throws a fit and rages at me in my DMs for hours and hours, and I miss things in my life because he's raging at me all the time.
That's why.
I got a question. Like, isn't Christy Winters and Kevin Logan like further to the right on economics than you?
Oh yeah, they're liberals.
Okay, well then that's odd. Like you're further to the left, but oddly enough, he's bitching at you more than he's bitching at them.
Because he thinks he can. He just it's arbitrary, right? There's tons of left-wing people who are interacting with S-Man and you. But he only targets me out of all of them. He's never going after Charlie. He's never going after Lonely Wolf. Never going after any of them. Only me does he target for these hour-long spiels about how I shouldn't associate with this and I should condemn that, even though I've done so like thousands of times.
So everyone, I'm gonna have to pull a Kathy Newman here. So what Lapis is saying is that Owen is a sexist confirmed. Okay. Owen is a sexist confirmed.
So what you're saying is Owen is a closeted transphobe.
He's a transphobe. He's a sexist. He's a racist. He has a horrible taste in what is good food. He likes pineapple pizza. I have to condemn that.
I would actually use some armchair psychology and actually go to the opposite end and actually say maybe it's a case of he's not trying to be oppressive to Lapis. Maybe it's a case that he actually likes Lapis a lot.
I do want to
forget about me.
I kind of do want to get this stream a little bit back on the rails. I mean, since S-Man gone anyways.
The stream is completely off topic now, and also it's like about your time that you set.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can go on. I don't know. I mean, should we just give up and save it for another stream? I mean,
give up.
Yeah,
give up.
Give up.
Right.
Me and S need to have a good talk
give up. Give up.
Okay, yeah, we're just having a general good time now. At this point, it's become more shit shooting than
no one
anything.
cares about it because I think the reason why no one cares about the electoral college. Well, I don't think no one cares. I think it's
more
viable issue.
More people can care about their own well-being than the electoral college.
I think more people care about cats than they care about the electoral college system.
I also
care about the stone in their shoe So
people care more about economics than they care about electoral college.
People care about
Senator S-Man vote to raise taxes. Every time Owen tweets about capitalism, he gets an 80% tax increase.
Oh, you will get disapproval. Okay, both you and Owen will get disapproval from me. Just so you know.
Every time he tweets about capitalism, fascism, every time he uses any one of those words, he gets an 80% increase on his taxes, on his Twitter tax.
Oh, I'm definitely down for that.
Yeah,
I'm definitely down for that.
So
okay. I thought you were just talking about raising taxes in general, on everybody. Every time he tweets, everybody suffers.
Oh no!
And the tax
I have a better idea.
The taxes Owen has to pay, the Twitter tax, all somehow mysteriously enters a strange way. I don't know how this happened, but it enters a certain American person's pocket in the Western United States. It's a pure coincidence, guys.
Has he got a man in his name?
I think he has a dash in his name too.
Wow!
What about an ass?
I think it's likely. I think
guys have a question. Okay.
Yes, 3 S's.
All right, thank you. What? Anyway.
Go on, Rich. Go on.
All right. So I'm going to run for president in 2036. And
you can't run for president. You're English. You can't run for president.
Actually, I was born here, please. All right. So back off. Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Thank you. All right. Anyway, so I wanted to run, right? Okay, let me stop. Okay, this is my black accent now. I wanted to run, okay? And after I
vote for him.
He's black. I'll do it.
I want Barack Obama, 2008.
Hashtag yes we can.
Black person, swear to God. Anyway, but look, I want to know my concern is, I'm running Republican, and I was wondering, what is I understand the three biggest things. The three biggest things that are causing the deficit or our national debt are Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. How would you guys tackle these things? All right, what would you tackle? How would you tackle it? Let me know.
Just find every old person and literally tackle them.
Okay, well, I'd cut a lot of spending. Like I'd find out where where we don't need to, like where can we cut spending that we're not spending on something useful. Like I'd cut the military budget by a lopsided 40%.
I would too.
I just noticed something. For some reason, Dead Horse is not showing up on the browser.
Oh. Okay, so it's official.
You have muted?
I rejoined it. I rejoined it.
Well, you're here in Hangouts call, but for some reason you are not showing up on the browser. Like Dead Horse.
Censored everybody.
Dead Horse. Talk a full sentence so that I can hear.
Oppression. Why are you oppressing me?
I will run for president in 2040. Not as a Democrat, despite the fact I have blue in my fucking background. It's a soothing color, not gonna lie.
Okay, so you said oppression, and I heard oppression. I think you are showing on the browser, or at least we're hearing you anyways, but we're not seeing your icon, oddly enough, Dead Horse.
He's just not an icon, Darkcon.
Oh, yeah. He's not a political icon, just like Bering is not a political icon. Sargon's not a political icon. Okay, that's a bit of an inside joke because I keep on calling these people.
It's a lovely inside joke that unfortunately no one in this hangout will understand. Well, I think Lapis would, but she'd have to remember. She'd have to remember. And to be fair, it's such the best memes are the ones we don't remember.
I'm not sure that works.
It doesn't work either, but it's Sunday night, and I
remember how's the best.
I think a good inside joke is this is a phrase I used in a meme once. That face when you're having a debate with somebody, but you end up agreeing with them throughout the entire debate, and you start to panic.
It's a very long meme.
It is. It's a lot of words. I fit on an image. I was debating this person, and this person I promise is not in the hangout. So this person used to hide their face a lot, which is fine. I'm not going to throw shade. Used to say "ta-ta" for now, and I think had "the" in the name of their profile.
It's me.
No, it wasn't. I don't know.
It's all for now.
The common sense gal. The common sense gal. Damn.
Hey, I've got boobs.
Oh no!
Also, I
don't want to be remembered. I don't want to be reminded of watching the video of you showing your man titties.
You didn't have to watch it. You did not have to watch it. But guess what? You did.
Also,
I will have to burn my eyes. S-Man, I need your bleach.
Okay, but I will have to charge a heavy price for it because I'm a greedy little capitalist. Anyway, also, here's this good meme. The person that someone in this hangout will understand. Here goes.
Oh.
Snapping.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that happens is that when S-Man forgot a thing, he would always snap to try to remember, and then I started copying that, and then it just kind of became an inside joke that whenever we forget something, we snap simultaneously.
Yeah. It's one of the great memes from 2018, a year that was rather cancerous. I think one of the funniest memes of 2018 was just some nuclear takes some of the people that used to be in our circles would make, because it's I don't see how the hell you can come to that conclusion. So imagine I'm talking.
So what you're saying is that not having sex equals abortion.
So what you're saying is that not having sex with a woman equals abortion. And is it a heterosexual position?
So
is it a heterosexual position to only blow one guy? And
if you wanted to do something, you would do it.
If you can't know your sexual orientation unless you've had sex, and you can't be suicidal unless you've committed suicide, and
I'm sorry, that sounds too gay to be this
Humane-
one person
humane-
that we're talking about.
Humany.
Human E is gay for Stefan Molyneux. He wants that
Oh yes,
Manala.
he is.
Manala-
Oh yes, he is.
He wants a Manala dong. That's
He
what
wants
you
Manala
want.
Newer.
Molenbeek because Molenbeek tells him all the things he wants to hear about how white people are superior in every way.
Oh, God.
Molyneux is a fucking
Yeah.
joke. Like I saw one of his tweets and I'm like, he's blaming Mexicans for some problem with a hospital, and I'm like, how the fuck is that? That's a problem
Out
with an
of
overcrowded.
left field.
He makes
Yeah.
everything about how
Well-
men are oppressed. Like he made the movie It about how white men are oppressed in the West.
What does that even have anything to do? It has something to do with kids getting fucking eaten. I don't
Exactly.
see
He's
what
like only white men died in the movie,
God.
even though actually one white girl did die in the movie, and
I-
it's set in a region of Maine.
No, but we don't talk about that.
95% white. You'd expect mostly white people to die in a region that is so white.
It's wider. It's wider
There's
than
no agenda here. What are you doing?
it's wider than Lapis' skin. Like
Hey,
she's
in
wider
the
than-
movie Dunkirk, I only saw white people die. Hashtag white genocide.
I can imagine. Actually, I have a theory, you guys. Well, what if Stefan Molyneux tweets next? Chocolate milk is white genocide.
Chocolate milk.
Somebody make a parody account and actually say that.
Well,
I think
wouldn't
Stefan
his
Molyneux is just getting crazier and crazier.
I was going to say, wouldn't his actual thing be not chocolate milk is whatever? But wouldn't it be chocolate milk is racist? As in, milk was racist before, so now chocolate milk is racist.
I don't know.
I can imagine.
You know what's a hot take? There's this one video that I responded to, and in it they actually said, "Anti-racist is a code word for anti-white."
What? That's something I cannot get behind.
I'll share you all the video. Like, okay.
Lapis had to deal with a lot of cancerous takes from left
Wait.
Twitter. There was this one sockdem Raven.
Hold on.
Okay.
That
Dead
was the
Horseman
worst.
wanted to say
The
something.
pro necrophilia guy.
Oh my god!
Well, it depends. Well, what was the context of that?
There was no context. He was just like, I like necrophilia.
No, not that part.
I was going to say there is no
I was talking
context in
about
which
the
I would
previous-
ever say necrophilia is a good thing. No
previous part.
context.
I was talking about the previous part.
Well,
How'd you phrase it?
Anti-racist is a code word for anti-white.
White.
Or anti.
Why did you have to echo that last bit?
White.
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 Dark you lagged so bad you said "and" for like 5 seconds.
All right,
Um,
so here's the video. You know what? I'm going to screw it. I'm just going to screen share this, and we'll get ourselves a good laugh.
Have fun.
All right,
I think
share.
I need alcohol for this.
So okay,
No,
this is actually a video that I responded to. I'll just fast forward to the actual part that's relevant, but. This is an old video of me responding to Muhammad Ali's stupid-ass points against interracial marriage, but going towards the end, it just comes to an alt-right spiel. And obviously, I got the alt-righters bombing the video. But anyway, I am unplugging the freaking headphones right now.
Sorry.
I was going to say somebody's breathing very heavy. Like
Exactly.
they're
What's
going
going on,
That's not
man?
me.
We said white one
That's not
time,
me.
okay? I gotta breathe out.
I was just saying sorry. I totally missed everything because I got a phone call again. That was that
You
was
breathing
why I
like really
cut
hard.
out.
Man.
We're watching a racist video.
Oh, okay, cool.
The Dark
All right.
Klansman.
Okay.
That is the end of the video. And might I have to say, I had never seen such stupid, wait, what?
Norse wolf.
Heck? Overly dramatic much?
Asian for the Asian. But white countries for everybody. This is a matter of straight genocide.
Straight genocide. Yeah, we're going to get fucked up. All right, go.
Genocidal stab.
Yeah, I prefer my genocide to be gender diverse.
Can you pause it for just a second? All I was saying is there were a bunch of quote unquote anti-racism activists that were just specifically anti-white, but in general, that that's how they labeled themselves. If maybe that's what somebody was talking about. I don't know. there were a bunch of anti-racism activists that were like, "Fuck white people, fuck everyone who's white and evil shit." I don't know.
Well, at that
If it's
point,
white,
you know,
it
they're
ain't right.
already an anti-racist.
Oh my
activist.
god.
Right, but
It's
you
white
can't be
and
racist
right.
against white people.
People will call themselves, anti-racist, all sorts of things. But if
Right.
sometimes they don't necessarily.
Well, the point was that you can't be racist against white people, so they are still anti-racist activists. So,
Bro, I bet you gender side is going to be a new word by the end of 2019. Gender side. I can see it right
I
now.
think it's already a word.
It is? Really?
All right.
Somebody's going to have to Google it.
Oh my god.
All right. I'm going to rewind this a little bit. This is the bit you first.
You might have to boost the audio on that too.
Like countries for everybody. This is a matter of straight genocide.
Is he from Alabama? This is the sort of person who would vote for Roy Moore.
Oh, you're right. Gender side is a real freaking thing. This is real. Okay, let's figure out what it's. Wow. Just when you think the public school education has failed us, it does it again.
So,
just again.
Anyway.
Yeah, totally dramatic.
Anti-racist is a code word for anti-white.
Why did that guy have a little label on his head? He's anti-white.
Okay. So yeah, that's where I saw the hot take from. Was from this particular edited video. But I'll have to link you guys the entire video if you want to see it for yourself, and give it a like, please, so that the ratings can go up again.
Right, that's it. You're getting a dislike.
Crickets. That's good.
Anyway, so I was hoping that S-Man would have stuck around, but I guess you can't have your way on everything.
Damn it!
Yeah, S-Man, you should have stayed, bro. You haven't invested.
That the next time, here's the video there in the group chat.
Cool.
Although some of you are on mobile call, so I'll have to give it to you on Twitter. I think the next time that we go talking about Electoral College, I'll actually have to moderate a debate or something between S-Man and Two Plebs, because Two Plebs and S-Man were a couple of the main contenders on the Electoral College on Twitter earlier, over these last few weeks, and S-Man had more that he wanted to say on Electoral College, but yet could not quite get. Oh,
I'd love to be the substitute if he can't make it. So.
Yeah, but either S-Man versus Two Plebs or S-Man versus Dead Horse. But I kind of want to do.
Oh my god, there's a picture of Owen.
Burn my eyes! No.
Look what it says. Look what the tweet says.
Chest tattoos really suck. I'd remove it, but I think it's growing on me. Pure cock. Oh no, sorry. Pure cuck boy. There we go.
What does it actually say?
It said
Originally it said ACAB. So
which means all cops are bastards.
He copied Maria the Witch, who took off her shirt and put that on herself on Twitter.
Wow.
Did she also do it naked?
Yeah, she did.
Not bad looking, to be honest. But anyway, so I decided in the spirit of memes and payback, because this fucker deserves it. I
just love the top right one. Yeah, that one. I love that one. It's like
he's like, shh, shh. The tattoo's a secret, guys. But I'm gonna post it on public Twitter, y'all. Lapis, thank you so much for providing this screen cap, because it's so fucking, it's great.
Oh, why did you have to say that on public stream? If Owen watches this?
I don't think Owen's gonna watch this, because I'm pretty sure every time he watches this stream and he sees that someone from his side is on DarkCon stream, he first nuts, then second has a fucking aneurysm, then an orgasm at the same time. I mean, I showed you that video where his face looked like it was doing that. I kid you not, and I'm like,
how many eyes?
I think I'm going to end this call soon.
I have one more meme to show you. I have one more meme to show you. If I can find it.
It has to be shown on public.
Yes, it will be. I will show it publicly because it is.
This better
Sparky,
be a good meme, man.
Sparky made this meme, and
Rich is getting tired.
No,
Yeah.
I'm getting hyped, man. So hyped.
Sparky made this, and I thought it was funny.
Face.
That's the face I'm talking about.
We'll have the best bread lines, better than anything.
I think this could use like a better editor. But what is that face?
Frankly, we'll have the best bread lines, better than any other bread lines. Better than any socialist country dreamed of. I will teach.
What does it say? Hold on.
I shall teach you. I shall teach you the value
of not
being
a bitch.
This, I promise, it'll be huge.
Thanks, Daddy.
Daddy.
Oh, dadgummit, Lapis left.
Thanks, Daddy.
The degeneracy has got to too high of a point.
Thanks,
this
Daddy.
This meme actually had me fucking dying. I tweeted this at Owen. Actually, I took Sparky gave me the meme and I tweeted it at Owen.
Oh yeah.
Mom, how did you know that Donald Trump patted me on the back of my head like I was like I was his dog? Esmon, you fash. Like literally.
Stop making him Scottish.
I will make Owen Scottish if I feel like it.
Bro, how many windows is this? What's happening over here in your screen, man? What's going on? Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I closed it. Anyway.
I was like, yo, so huge. A lot of lines, like my wall, so big.
There were a lot of lines in my wall. I was doing cocaine off my wall, y'all.
Would you ever do your daughter? Because I would. Ivanka.
All right, I want to wrap up the live portion of this call because I think it's grown quite unnecessary at this point. We are past 8 p.m.
Is that why the people leaving the stream?
Yeah.
I have a question.
What? Before we go off air,
I would like to debate everybody in this call another time of whether the Donald has a constitutional right to grab someone by the pussy.
He does. He's the president. He can pardon himself.
I can do it.
S-Man, would you like the chance to debate Dawn of Two Plebs on the Electoral College sometime?
Sure.
On a moderated debate.
Yeah, like I don't mind debating really anyone in this hangout or Dawn of Two Plebs or whatever that other dude's name of Two Plebs or if it's I don't care if it's
Peter.
Peter. And besides, I don't mind that at all really. Yeah. Thanks for having us on, and as always, everybody, let's directly elect the next person who will be the greatest meme of this year. I nominate probably Humane was the greatest meme of the month, but greatest meme of the year. We'll have
it's
to.
Always Ham.
I think
it's always Ham.
I think Humane has become pretty much irrelevant at this point. Who knows who it'll be next throughout the year? Last year it was Jocelyn, but this year, who knows?
I nominate Ham for the position of big meme of 2019. He was the meme. He literally he was. If you dare mute Ham when he cuts you off, he'll make himself a meme. I promise.
All right. So anyway, to wrap this up, I would like to thank Richard of the Geekish Gamer Show.
No, not the Geekish Gamer Show. Okay.
The right. So I was going to mention your current channel as well.
Take it. I think I'm about to delete the Geekish Gamer Show. It's got to go, bro.
What?
Gotta go.
Okay, at least at least transfer some of your videos to your new channel. At least.
What video?
Particularly the one where you were ranting about guns.
Oh, you watched that one?
Yeah, I think you could hey, dead horse. Quit fapping on my stream.
Sorry.
I know that you got a big dick because you're a horse, but damn it. Anyway, enough with the horse meat.
Wow, that's such a good horse, man.
Thank you, Rich of the Right Side of History. Thank you, Jason of the Common Sense Guy. Thank you, S-Man of S-Man Speaks. Thank you, Dead Horse of A Very Dead Horse. And I'd like to thank Lapis of the Effeminate Degenerate channel. Unfortunately, she left before she could say goodbye or anything like that. But
everyone check the group chat of the Hangout.
And Yeah, and I am the Dark Conservatarian, your host and somewhat moderator. And see you all next time. Bye-bye.